Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. The World Championship is over, one of the best series that we have ever seen on the international stage. Record breaking in so many different ways between the two best teams right now on the planet. From EMEA and from China, leaving Pacific now as the only region not to have won a major international event. Edward Gaming coming from nowhere over the last few months to become the best team in the world and lift the trophy to so much reaction around the world. Plenty to dive into today. What does it mean for this off-season to come in terms of what teams might need to make changes? Very much intro to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Obviously, we've got to give a massive shout out to the Heretics guys as well. Certainly Gen.G Fishy, right? I mean, coming over from Fortnite as he did when he made this confirmation 2 years ago that he was going to come over to VALORANT, made that run on Enterprise Esports, got the opportunity with Heretics. I don't think there's many people that expected him to become the player that he has done and be able to perform on this kind of a level. Even Tex at the time said, man's coming for my job, and, you know, guess it happened a couple of years later, right? Shout out to all the cast as well. I thought that obviously like Pansy this season with what happens, you know, with that situation and still stepping in to man the ship and honestly doing, I think, a great job and improving every single tournament he was part of. There was also last night this pretty interesting Riot Games, I think, won like Esports Publisher of the Year, and VALORANT again for like the 4th year in a row now won Esports Game of the Year. It's not the perfect esport by any means. There's problems, there's things that we'd like to improve. We talk about them often here on the channel, but still, a spectacle such as today, the venue that they had for this grand finals of VALORANT was nothing short of spectacular there in Seoul. There was also this pretty interesting that there will be some sort of co-ed events this season, maybe co-ed events this off-season actually, which, you know, bringing together the main circuit, bringing together Game Changers teams to potentially compete. That's potentially kind of exciting. As I say, after this tournament, many teams around the world, if they're not already changing, they will very much so need to be considering it. This is not actually a real roster. I just thought I'd, you know, make it very clear again that, you know, we're kind of just making things up at this point, but that doesn't necessarily mean that plenty of these teams won't be considering moves, which I'm sure that they will, especially considering the levels here that Edward Gaming and Team Heretics got to in the grand finals of this tournament. It's pretty clear that other teams need to, you know, find a way to step it up if they're going to want to take these guys down next season. But, you know, if you'd have told me in January or even just a few months ago, but especially January before we knew the Heretics were actually quite good, like it was quite clear from EMEA's perspective early in the season, you know, KC were looking good, Heretics of course were really good at the start of the year as well, and that was a surprise to many. Obviously they had the Patty Tech run, and, you know, very much hoping that Patty Tech will get an opportunity straight somewhere into the VCT for next season. But, you know, before we knew Heretics were good, we've known that Edward Gaming have been good in region domestically, but even this year they would turn up to internationals and kind of get slammed, and we were expecting, alright, which team at some point is going to get over the line. Like, they made that one-man change, Simon comes in, that's clearly made a massive impact for them. But as I say, if you'd have told me at the start of the season it would have been Heretics and Edward, the two teams in the grand finals of the World Championship, and I said you were absolutely mental. But like as Sentinels say, at the end of the day, they lost to the two teams that were in the grand finals, right? So yesterday, Heretics got the victory against Leviatan, the only remaining America's representative at the time. This was a winnable series, but in the end, Heretics a bit too strong, certainly on the final map. And like Commie said even today on the broadcast, he's an emotional guy, wears his heart on his sleeve. He wished he could defend the trophy, right? But eventually it didn't happen in the end. And as he said, I'm sad to lose, but happy that we made it this far again. So fair play to Leviatan coming into this year. They were, you know, there was a question which team was going to flop from the Americas. It had to be someone. Was it going to be Sentinels? Was it going to be Loud? Was it going to be Leviatan? Was it going to be NRG? Well, we got our answer to that one relatively quickly into the season, right? And even Boaster giving a lot of credit to Rians, saying that he gives him Leo vibes. Dude is just good at VALORANT, right? So that was that series yesterday where Leviatan went down 1-3. The Icebox was 13-7 to Heretics, and that kind of set the tone for the series, really. Fair play to Leviatan bouncing back after this difficult sunset. They won the Abyss, which often has been a decider lately, but the Lotus in the end 13-3. Not even close. Lev gets slammed out of the tournament, and it was the brothers Mini Boo and Boo just doing the damage, right? So yeah, Heretics, such a well-rounded team from top to bottom, and I think they deserve a lot of credit, really, in the fact that a lot of those players, basically that entire team, has made some progress through challenges. Pretty much all of those guys played in some sort of challenges circuit over the last couple of years, and they've been able to form the roster that they have. But going into today then, that led Edward Gaming, who were the favourites going in because they'd come from the winner's side, the first ever grand finalist from China. And I think many of us felt, especially when Boostio said it, because we said this at the time, we talked about Boostio and his comments on China. They were never going to catch up to North America and all of this stuff. And, I made the comment at the time, many made the comment, right, like, the words will be minced at some point. I mean, there's no doubt that China is the biggest region in Valorant, really. I mean, you look at the viewership for their own matches, and they blow out of the water some of the viewership around the world. So it was only a matter of time until China were a real force in global Valorant. We've said that basically from day one, ever since Edward Gaming first came on the scene. And especially now they have more competition in region, other teams such as Bilibili Gaming, such as, of course, FBX and even Trace Esports now, have moved the envelope forwards. That's helping Edward step up to a new level, right? And, chance to really put China on the map. Of course, Heretics back-to-back then international grand finalist after losing the last one, unfortunately, for them to Gen.G. First EMEA Champions Grand Finalist, though, since 2021, when Ascend, of course, won before the real proper VCT, as it's been the franchise partnership league for the last couple of years, even existed. So, incredible that they even made it here, to be honest. Obviously, we had some cool moments here from Kaplan, coach of the Sentinels guys, and, of course, Boaster himself representing, or at least supporting, that Edward Gaming team. And the intro was fire as well, right? So, we've talked about and we've complained about, and I think for good reason in part, the setup of the World Championship, right? The fact that it lasts like 3-4 weekends, there's so many matches played not on this big stage, and there's only so much you can do with the format they've decided to go for in front of a massive crowd on a big stage. But, obviously the way they set things up, the opening ceremony, I mean, this is what Derek tweeted out and was like, yeah, I want to be back in next year because look at this venue, look at the setup, it's absolutely spectacular, right? This is what it's all about, and it's great that we had a venue and a setup like this today. The crowd was super loud, super engaged. I'm not surprised at all. But I just wish we had more of this, right? Like, more tournaments like this would be good rather than just 2 or 3 a year, and especially, potentially having this for multiple days rather than just a couple. But going into the grand finals, Artis, as he says, you're about to witness history. Hot 3-0, right? We know that Artis, he, has talked about the Chinese region. There's been the drama there. There's been the pros and the cons of that whole drama. Even Exalta, that was pretty funny. Glad to see Artis rooting for EDG in person. Here he is with this fella, like seems like an audio engineer or something, I don't know, but kind of looks like Artis, and Artis is like, that, who's this guy? What do you mean? I'm not there in person. So anyway, the grand finals eventually starts to get underway, and there were some, hilarious moments in this. The best of 5 grand finals, it's always going to be a grueler, especially if it goes down to the wire, as you'd hope that it would, and as exactly what it did here. Heretics, though, took a very comfortable game 1 on the Haven, and I was wondering, like, what EDG were going to turn up today. I think Heretics were always going to play well. The question that I had really was whether Edward were going to be able to replicate what they've shown earlier on, because, to me, a team that still maybe verge, just because we haven't seen them do it that many times before on this international stage, whether, was the pressure going to get to them, how are they going to play, and game 1 was pretty comfortable at Heretics in the end, but I think really Edward were settled when they just commanded the Sunset game 2. Like, they started up 7-0 and then Kang popped an ace, and at this point it's like, all right, well, this map is over, we might as well just go to map 3 right about now. And yeah, both of the first 2 maps were dominant. Then we finally got a real grueling map here when this was going to potentially determine the trajectory of the series, and that's what Chi-Chu decided to do. I mean, look, Kang's going to get the credit, he's going to get the plaudits, he's going to be the MVP, right, and understandably so. But it's not just the Kang show, that's kind of what it used to feel like, but with nobody, I mean, with the entire team, right, but Chi-Chu especially, I would say, stepping up big time. Here he goes with an ace again, he gets the first 4, and he finishes off the final kill here as well against Benji Fishy, and, clean shots. Certainly the first few kills were really clean here on the Sunset, and, that sent the picture, really. Then we ended up on a bind. I thought this was a cool moment just to kind of showcase some of the teamwork here, really. Riens was in a 1 versus 3. He was never going to clutch this, but, I mean, look at the lineup here. from Chi-Chu, Seaman, and Smoggy. Like, they're all lined up. There's no way you're going to come around the corner and kill all three of them. So that's exactly what happens. In the end, though, Heretics clutched up. They won this one 13-11. Edward put up a fight, but it did go to a game 5. And in the game 5, this was all to play for on the Abyss, right? We've seen this as a decider before. This was a massive round, by the way, from Gen.G Fishy. Like, you know, couldn't have played this much better. Gets the first kill here. Manages to get over by the spike, and, you know, the timing wasn't going to work out. Nails the headshot on Chi-Chu when it matters, and gets the diffusion as well. That was a huge round to clutch it up at 2-2. There was also, of course, because it's Abyss, moments of jumping off the map in certain circumstances, and, you know, Patty Tech was even like, hey, Lothar, who basically called it disrespectful to do anything like that, was going to comment on it, and then Lothar gave his perspective and said why it's not what he talked about it being before. Like, I don't really care. We're going to move on from that. I just thought the whole drama was kind of funny again. But, look, the real drama was in the server, because Edward then took a relatively commanding lead. This round, I thought potentially was going to prove to be critical. Smoggy thought he might have the defuse. He missed this defuse by 0.12 of a second, right? A tenth of a second, missed the defuse by, and that gave an additional rounds to Heretics that if the timing just went slightly the other way on that defuse, Heretics would have lost, they'd have gone down. Probably it's game over then and there. But in the end, Edward, they did enough on the defensive side, and Edward Gaming are your 2024 Valorant World Champions. A quite remarkable and unbelievable story, right? I mean, what a series. First of all, commiserations to Heretics. The way that they've gone down the last couple of tournaments will be nothing short of heartbreaking. But, look, their team is so good. It's also so young, and with so much prospect in the future as well that, you know, I'm excited to see Heretics play again next year. But, like, what a performance from Edward Gaming, right? Chi-Chu and Kang, 111 kills, absolutely smashing the record for not just kills in an international grand finals, but kills in any best of 5 ever. I mean, he destroys Texture's record, takes it to 111. Obviously, the record used to be 101 not long ago. Texture raised the bar. Now Kang's raised the bar again. Plus 39 for Kang over 5 maps of a series. On the Neon, on the Raze, on the Jet, on whatever. And, I mean, look, especially bouncing back from losing their own map pick 13-6, winning the next one on Heretics pick 13-4, like it was all over the place. And thankfully down the line we got some banger maps, a 13-9, a 13-11 the other way, and then a 13-9 again that could have very much gone either way. It looked like the comeback was on for Team Heretics, but it wasn't to be in the end, and it's Edward Gaming, the Chinese team, that take the championship. And as Asuna says, what a series. China's #1, and I knew my pig iGel was an idiot, right? Of course, talking about Boostio, the comment he made towards Edward Gaming and towards the Chinese scene in general. And I think one of the scary things for the other regions of Valorant is the fact that after this victory, it's only going to increase the popularity of Valorant in China, right? It's now going to become an even bigger deal. There's going to be more players wanting to get involved. There's going to be more realization from some of the other teams in that region that, hey, if we can beat Edward, if we can be competitive with Edward, we can win the World Championship, we can win championships. So, you know, I think if you didn't think China was a serious force of a region before this tournament, you certainly will now. And I don't think it's just Edward Gaming that are going to be in this position, right? Because we've always talked about with these regions, right? Like, it's all about the practice you get locally. If you can play the world champions in region, as everyone in China now can when they go back there, that is a serious advantage. So, as Ten says, what a match. Congrats to EDG. History for Chinese Valorant. Phenomenal match overall, and just makes things really exciting for next season. So great reactions to see, obviously, from the players themselves, and raises questions on what teams, you know, might need to make changes if they want to beat these guys going into next year. So hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you are new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.